5:30 by my clock, so I'm going to call our meeting to order on time today. Look at us go. For attendance, we have Trustees Olmsted, Burgess, and Halberstadt on the phone with us this evening, and we have regrets from Trustee Hatfield. I'm looking for a mover for approval of the agenda this evening. Trustee Leclerc, seconded by Trustee Sartori. Any discussion on the agenda, public session agenda today? Seeing and hearing none, I'll give our phone people a minute to unmute.
Madam Chair?
Yes?
It's not necessary, Madam Chair, but since you've already taken attendance, I would just like to say publicly that I was really hoping to be there in person today, but I'd like the public to know that I can't wear a mask and manage the annoying and distracting cough I have and sneezing. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows that I'm fine and I can attend, but it's just really distracting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we're all used to, after a year and a half, adjusting to keep people's health at top of mind. So we appreciate that, Trustee Burgess. So all in favor of the agenda as it is in front of us? Anyone opposed? And that carries. Looking for a mover to convene into private session. Trustee Sipcar, seconded by Trustee Cook. Any discussion on that? All in favor? And that carries. We're moved into private session. will call us back to order here in our public session. We are reconvening into public session. I will do attendance again at the top of it is at the top of the public agenda. I'll do it again here at 7 p.m. We do have Trustee Olmsted, Trustee Burgess, and Trustee Halberstadt on the phone. I think we're still awaiting Trustee Halberstadt at this point. He should be coming in on the phone, so we may hear that interrupt us as we go through this, but that's okay. We do have regrets from Trustee Hatfield this evening. I will read our land acknowledgement. So we acknowledge that we are on land and surrounded by water, originally inhabited by indigenous peoples. There he is. Who have traveled this area since time immemorial. This territory is within the lands honored by the Wampum Treaties, agreements between the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Lenni Lenape, and allied nations to peacefully share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. Specifically, we would like to acknowledge the presence of the Three Fires Confederacy, the Ojibwe, the Odawa, the Potawatomi, and Huron-Wendat peoples. We are dedicated to honoring Indigenous history and culture while remaining committed to moving forward respectfully with all First Nations, Inuit, and Métis. Any declarations of conflict of interest for in here? Seeing and hearing none, thank you. Actions of the board meeting, private session. Trustee Cook.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The first one we have is F1 business. Can I have someone move that? Trustee Leclerc, and a seconder is Trustee Higgison. The next one, I'm sorry. All in favor? It's passed. The next one is F2, personal information. Trustee Higgison, and a seconder, Trustee Sipkar. All in favor? And it's passed. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Trustee Cook. On to approval of the minutes. Can I get a mover to approve the minutes of the 21st, September 21st? Trustee Leclerc, seconded by Trustee Cook. Any discussion on approval of the minutes? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor? Approval of the minutes. Thank you very much. Thank you on the phone. Any business arising from those minutes we just approved?
Burgess?
Go ahead, Trustee Burgess.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On our page 9, in trustee question period at the last public board meeting, I asked about, or not me actually, another trustee asked about the practice of students getting 10 minutes to eat in our schools, etc. I have a motion that I gave notice for on the agenda, but I would reconsider that motion if I could hear a plan that addressed that question. It was noted that Director Kelly noted that we will investigate what is happening. So as business arising from that, could I get an update?
Through you, Madam Chair, I'd ask Superintendent Hillman if he could respond to that.
Thank you. And through you, Madam Chair, yes, the concern was addressed and resolved at the school level following the last board meeting. So we had a virtual meeting with our elementary school administrators and had them review for any schools or classrooms where this was an issue and to adjust the schedules appropriately at that time. So we're confident that that is the case. And as always, if there was ever a scenario where a concern, was for a student or a family, then we would recommend they let the teacher and principal know, and we'd be able to follow up with that. But we're confident that the issue was addressed.
So,
go ahead, Trustee Burgess.
Supplemental if I could to that. So that was system-wide, and the question came up because the concerns were brought forward to the classroom teacher, to the principal, and administration was known, was made known. So you're saying that you're confident that in all of our elementary schools that we have how many minutes? 20 minutes uninterrupted time for all kids to eat in elementary schools?
Again, through you, it's not about a specific 20 minutes. There will be classrooms where there's longer time than that, and there will be some where, based on the needs of the students, It'll be approximately 20 minutes. We have many schools where this is not a concern, where there's sufficient space in schools and kids are able to separate and eat. And there is no issue there. We have many schools that divide the nutrition breaks where one group goes out and the other doesn't, and this isn't an issue. So this was an issue as presented at the last meeting in some schools where they tried to divide the 20 minutes into 2 10s. And in those scenarios, we've just provided flexibility for staff to begin that process appropriately, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. There might be a particular classroom where they need a little bit more time than that, and they've added additional time. A challenge is that schools are structured very differently. So for some schools, kids eat in the classroom first, and therefore they would provide additional time to eat at the end of the previous period, begin lunch during the last class. There's others where students go outside first, and they would want additional time added after lunch. So those unique circumstances make it necessary to solve this, kind of flexibly in each location. But our administrators have been asked to review that and to provide whatever time is necessary for students.
I really, really appreciate that. When inclement weather comes and the plans are preclude the use of the outdoors, is there a plan in place for those schools that have that, flexible plan where they go outside? What happens when they can't?
Again, through you, Madam Chair, the scenario, in many ways, that makes it easier. In many ways, you're not being rushed or rushing yourself to get outside to play. So the 40 minutes are spent entirely in your classroom with supervision there. Having said that, we've learned many things through COVID. One is we require flexibility at the schools. So I'm confident as our young students learn to put on their boots and coats, and that takes extra time at the beginning, that our teachers know and our principals will support them adding time as necessary and making sure the routines are effective and efficient.
Oh, I really appreciate your response. Thank you very much. If I could note too, Madam Chair, on that page 9, there's a tiny little typo in that second little arrow. The word each, I think, should be eat. It wouldn't have been caught by spell check, just to catch that. I didn't bring it up at minutes.
Thank you, Trustee Burgess. I see that. Thank you. Any other questions from trustees on business arising from the minutes? Seeing none and hearing none on the phone, we'll move forward to our student trustee presentation. Who's going first today? Student Trustee McCowie, go ahead.
Good evening, Director Kelly, the Board of Trustees, and Senior Administration. Last week, Paige and I were excited to welcome our student senators to our first meeting. The agenda was filled with important items, including the role of Student Senate and the responsibilities of student senators. Student Senate is committed to providing opportunities for students to engage in the issues most important to them. As noted at the September board meeting, our student input survey indicated mental health awareness, anti-racism education, and financial planning and money management are the things students are most passionate about. The Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee will speak to Student Senate at an upcoming meeting to learn how students can be involved in this very important work. The members are eager to share their input and ideas on a process for the election of student trustees by students. We are in the planning stages for the annual Student Leadership Conference, which will be held virtually again this year. Paige and I are excited to announce the Grade 9 Guide to High School has been released to students. We've received a great deal of positive feedback and well over 1,000 interactions on our social media platforms. We are pleased with the Windsor-Essex County's Health Unit's recent announcement that schools may resume extracurricular activities and sports. Students are eager to participate in these activities once again. Paige and I are looking forward to attending the Osta Echo Fall General Meeting in November, where we'll connect with student trustees from across Ontario to learn more about our roles. The 2021-22 school year is off to a great start, and we are honored to work with Student Senate, Senior Administration, and the Board of Trustees. Thank you to Director Kelly, Michelle Marquez, and Superintendent Korbach for their continued support and leadership.
Thank you very much. We don't have anything else after today? Wonderful. Thank you very much for that report. Any questions from trustees for our student trustees on that report? Trustee Sipkar.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. Just a quick question on Student Senate. What's the level of participation from our schools across the district? Do we have like 100% or are most schools involved? I'm just curious to know how many and what schools are involved.
To our knowledge at this time, we have senators from almost every school. I believe there's one school that we haven't heard back from yet, and we are still waiting to hear back from the virtual school representatives.
Thank you for that. Any other questions from trustees? Ooh. I'm going to assume that wasn't a question. Thank you very much. I'm very interested about hearing that students are interested in money management. I know that when I graduated school, that's one of the things that we talked about was we didn't learn about taxes and mortgages and things like that. So I'm glad to hear that we're making progress on that front. So thank you very much for that report. All right, we are moving on. We do not have any delegations this evening and no one on the speakers list. Moving right along to L1, name of the new school in Amherstburg, and I will call on Trustee Leclerc.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, as you are aware, the committee has met, and the report is on pages 15 through 17. There were 4 names that were the final submissions to the board. And that would be North Star, the Great Salt Trail, and Southwest Unity and Southwest Alliance. If there's any questions about the process, I'll answer that, but I do have a motion if you're prepared to hear it. Okay, I move that the new high school located in the town of Amherstburg be named North Star High School. And if I have a seconder to that, I will speak to it.
So I see we have a seconder, Trustee Cook, and you can speak to it. Go ahead.
Thank you. I wish to start by thanking the members of the naming committee for the work through this process. This was not an easy process. However, it's not uncommon for the naming committee to find the process complicated. What I do feel is important is for the community to understand that the new high school represents a $25 million investment in the community, a new school which will be the envy of many other communities. I think back in my lifetime and remember this community having to share its high school on 2 occasions, once with the students of the future Sandwich Secondary High School and once with the coterminous board. I also remember the town fighting hard to keep a public high school. So this investment represents a significant commitment by this board to the town of Amherstburg. I also believe it is important for the community to understand that the school does not define the town. The school enhances the town, but it does not define the town. Amherstburg is a special place with an amazing waterfront, great restaurants, museums, and festivals. It's a great tourist destination. That is what defines the town. With that, I am moving North Star High School as the name of the new school, which will bring together the schools of Western, Secondary, and General Amherst. I move this name for a number of reasons. First, we need only look at our corporate logo, which includes 2 children reaching for the stars. I don't know if it's the North Star, but they're reaching for the stars. Second, Amherstburg represents an important landing for those escaping slavery in the United States. The North Star was a directional beacon for the Underground Railway. Thirdly, for the Indigenous peoples, stars are an important element. To the Anishinaabe, stars are animate because they move and have spirit. Spirituality plays a big part in the universe because of both movement and energy. The Anishinaabe creator got his or her idea of creating the clans from the stars, so everything starts with the stars. Learning to understand the stars is extremely important in aiding to predict both the weather and seasonal migration and other activities important in one's life. The Indigenous people played a vital role in the area in partnership with the British, ensuring the Americans were unsuccessful in achieving their manifest destination, or manifest destiny. The fourth reason, according to Earth Sky, the North Star or Pole Star, aka Polaris, is famous for holding nearly still in our sky while the entire North Sky moves around it. Metaphorically speaking, your North Star is your personal mission statement. It is a fixed destination that you can depend on in your life as the world changes around you. And finally, Amherstburg Minor Hockey was once called the North Stars. For those reasons, I am moving North Star High School as a new name for the high school in the town of Amherstburg.
Thank you very much, Trustee Leclerc. Do I have any other questions or comments from trustees? Trustee Sartori.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that I really appreciated that summary and sort of rationale about the recommendation for the new school to be named North Star. I'm very supportive of that selection, of that recommendation. Trustee Leclerc, appreciate your work very much on that committee over the last few months. And I'm very pleased to be able to support a new school name that helps advance this school board's direction in equity, diversity, and inclusivity, and anti-racism and anti-oppression. So thank you very much. Pleased to support that name.
Any other questions or comments from trustees?
Burgess?
Go ahead, Trustee Burgess.
Comment, I'm very supportive of the name, and I really appreciated the rationale that's additional to the package that we received, aligning with our logo with the Anishinaabe, is particularly Ojibwe. The North Star had a different name, a different constellation name. It was found in the Loon, and it was very important and is very important, and I love the alignment of that. I also would like to say that I like the alignment in the moral compass, the conscience of human integrity, your North Star, and that's something that transcends all cultures and all beliefs, and it's a great symbol for the communities of both schools and the 8 municipalities from which they draw their students. My question is, it's North Star, but is that district school, high school, secondary school? What have we landed on for the other part of the name?
I believe it's a high school.
So it would be North Star High School. Do you have any follow-up to that, Trustee Burgess?
No, I was just looking for what the acronym was. Thank you.
Indeed, we do like our acronyms here. Any other questions or comments? Go ahead, Trustee Leclerc.
Yeah, I was remiss, but Trustee Sartori brought it to my attention. I do need to thank all the trustees that assisted along the way, and administration who assisted along the way. It was not an easy journey, as you're well aware. And I do say that there's a lot of support in the town of Amherstburg for a name other than the name Amherstburg, but I do understand why there are some people that still are committed to the name Amherstburg. But what's important to me is that at the end of the day, I had the support of the other trustees to get this done. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Trustee Leclerc. Any other questions or comments from trustees? I do have a comment on this. I wanted to thank both Trustees Leclerc and Trustee Hatfield for their work on our behalf. I wanted to thank the members of the school communities that were on the committee, and the members of the community that participated on the committee. It certainly was contentious, as school names have a tendency to be. We all have pride and we care about our communities, and we feel honored when we get to have a hand in honoring them. What we have here is an opportunity in our institution. We are an educational institution, and we grow and we change, and change is challenging, and it's filled with tension. And when we consult with our communities, when we ask them for feedback, we don't tell them what version of feedback we expect them to come back to us with. I do genuinely thank everyone for sharing their voice and their feedback with us. My democracy is a messy one because it includes everyone. What this feedback has shown me is we have an opportunity as an educational institution to ensure that we center and really broadly reach our communities with lessons of the Indigenous history, lifting up Indigenous and racialized voices, and the true reality of how our past is connected to our future, and that there's much work to be done here. This job here tonight is ours. We don't simply carry the unedited words of our communities into this room. We listen to them and apply the values we have as the people they elect, and the values we have as a board. And the 10 of us just got to decide on those values: truth and reconciliation, of stewardship, of ethical stewardship of our resources, of creating confident learners, and engaging respectfully with our diverse communities. Uncomfortably, that means we take progress with challenge here. I appreciate the name North Star for all the reasons, and I appreciate your synopsis of the reasons of choosing North Star High School. And I reflected on what it means to me if I'm using my values and the values of our board to name a school, which is a huge honor bestowed upon us as elected officials. For Indigenous storytelling, stars are guides and connections. For Black Canadian experiences in Windsor, Essex, the North Star led former enslaved people as a beacon to their true north and to freedom. For our staff, it's a reminder to center their North Star in their professional practice, their care for students and peers and themselves. For our students, walking past the name of a school every day that reminds them to follow their own North Star and the version of themselves they want to be, what's a better representation of individualized learning and care for creating confident learners? It's inspirational and it's aspirational. And it's forward-thinking with a nod to the past that led us here, with all its twists and turns and its darkness and light. I thank you all for your support for our trustee colleagues on that committee, for your support to the community as we heard their voices, and for your support to our administration and the community members that belong to the committee. And so with that, I will call the vote on naming our brand new school in the town of Amherstburg, North Star High School. All in support. Thank you very much, and that passes. Moving forward to notice of motion from Trustee Burgess that the GECDSB present a plan as soon as possible that's compliant with the WETU public health guidelines and allows for all students to have 20 uninterrupted minutes allotted for eating during their student nutrition breaks in all elementary schools in our district. Trustee Burgess, do you wish to move it?
No, I don't, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Do we have any movers for this motion? No movers. We will move on to the next notice of motion. Thank you very much, trustees. From Trustee Chin, to follow the policy of the GECDSB that all students need to wear a mask at school. The students exempted from wearing a mask are required to wear a face shield in order to protect other people. Do we have a mover for that motion? Trustee Chin. Do we have a seconder for that motion? Trustee Leclerc. Trustee Chin, would you like to speak to it?
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. And this motion actually comes from a complaint from parents, and they do worried that their kids are not protected because the students around them doesn't have a mask. So, and that's why I made the motion. I think if the students are exempted from wearing a mask, at least he should wear a face shield in order to protect other kids around them, especially high school, and they cannot avoid the distance, So that's why I make the motion. And I also have read a message from the newspaper that some doctors, they made this note does not follow the procedure and follow the rules, and some doctors has already been kind of removed from their right to make this kind of note. So that's makes me think that is it really fair for some students to have right not to wear mask? I'm not sure, but I think to be fairness to other students and to protect all the students, I think it's better to have the face shield and on instead of just open, in the public. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from trustees? Trustee Sipkar.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, I have a question for administration. Are face shields a part of our board-approved PPE?
Through you, Madam Chair. All of our board staff are required to wear masks. That's required. If a teacher or a school staff member is working with a student that is unable to wear a mask, then that those staff members are required to wear eye protection in the form of a face shield, goggles, or safety glasses.
And so to further that, is there anything preventing students on a case-by-case basis from wearing their own face shields, or can we, and I guess the follow-up to that is, do we provide them at all if students want to wear face shields?
Through you, Madam Chair, we would not provide a face shield to a student. Similarly, that we don't necessarily provide the masks. If a student forgets a mask, then of course we have those available. I think we just need to be cautious that a face shield is open along the sides and underneath, so it doesn't necessarily provide the protection to others that individuals may think, as opposed to wearing a mask, and that we do have other layers of health and safety that we do put in place, including physical distancing, hand hygiene, respiratory etiquette, all the cues and those sorts of things. So I think it might provide a false sense of security. We certainly would not stop anyone that I'm aware of from wearing a face shield, but we wouldn't be providing it, and I don't think it would provide the safety.
Just one more to that then. Do we have an estimate as to how many students this would affect within our system? Should we mandate face shields if they don't have or if they have a mask exemption?
Thank you for the question. Through you, Madam Chair. I don't have a particular number at this point in time. It is a very small number throughout our board. I want to address something previous too, that whenever there's an exemption for a mask that's necessary, it has to go through the principal and then comes through my office. And we are very strict with that. And I oftentimes call the physicians to find out, is this person somebody that does absolutely require a mask, or is there an area here that they don't actually need one? And oftentimes they tell me that they really don't need one, but the parents were requesting it from them. So that's happened a number of times. As a result, they don't get the mask exemption. We do, in our safety plan, it says that we encourage a face shield to be worn. Not you must, but it's encouraged. And but we don't force the children to do it. And if they don't do it, we have a safety plan that's set up through the principal and the teachers and the support staff, so that there's physical distancing at all times. That means when the student stands up in the classroom to go somewhere, the location of the desk in the classroom, the proximity when centers are going on. So all of that is taken into account to make sure it is as safe as possible.
Thank you very much. Trustee Cook.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question was just, one is, would we supply the face shields? And my concern is that we're talking, kids from kindergarten on up, and I mean, it's not a one-size-fits-all face shield, and they have to be cared for in a certain way also in order to be preventable of other if it gets dirty or anything like that, just like a mask. But my real concern is that it's not a one-size-fits-all. And I really think that we're stepping into something that the health unit should be in charge of. Thank you.
Trustee Sartori.
Thank you. So my question or concern, I suppose, is around whether this is an appropriate strategy even for all students who are exempt from wearing a medical mask or a cloth mask. So if I can ask a question of administration. So I'm wondering if someone from administration can comment on, I guess, the appropriateness for using a shield instead of a mask for all students. I'm thinking of students with some medical conditions, with some special needs, in which there might be, there could be, various sensitivities So I'm wondering, and it looks like Superintendent Wilcox is prepared to comment. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. I just want to add that most of the students with those types of exemptions are students in our who participate in programming in our Gains and Staff's classrooms. They are provided an exemption based on a cognitive profile or having autism, which oftentimes comes with sensory issues. So these students are exempt from wearing masks currently for those reasons. And wearing a face shield would be just as difficult for these students. And we don't really, to my knowledge, recommend wearing a face shield without a mask anyways, because it doesn't provide a proper protection.
Do you have a supplemental?
Just to say, I'm not sure that I can support the motion as it stands then. And I do have the same concerns as Trustee Cook previously mentioned as well.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Burgess?
Go ahead, Trustee Burgess.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I think that we all agree that face shields are not anywhere near as efficacious against spread of any respiratory droplets, So I don't think that anybody is stating that in this motion. It does say protect other people, but I don't think it's not equivalent. This is just an attempt at making it better, not ideal. My question is to administration, if I could, because I do think it has been our purview and it has been our advocacy to have masking and enhanced PPE. Is a mask or a face covering exemption the same? Would it follow? And I just want to note what Superintendent Wilcox said. Would it follow that it's automatic that it's an exemption from a face shield? My understanding is that it isn't, and I would support this motion if I knew that, like mask exceptions, that there could be face shield exemptions because of that individual, ability to effectively wear a face shield, knowing that the face shield offers, some protection, but it's not the same as a mask. It's an incremental gain. So my question again is it to maybe the mover as well? I would support it if I knew that there was an exemption for face shields as well, knowing that most of the wearers would be those with special education needs and maybe not an ability to wear a face shield.
So, Trustee Burgess, am I clear? That question is to the mover to ask whether this exemption or whether this policy or this recommendation is also allowing for exemptions for face shield wearing as well?
Yes, but I think the answer has come from administration as well. Is that have we had exemptions for face shields, for example?
Okay, so
medical.
So I'll allow administration to answer the question about whether we have exemptions to students wearing face shields, and then I'll direct to the mover following their answer there. Superintendent Aywinder.
Thank you for the question. Through you, Madam Chair. We do not have exemptions for face shields. On the opposite to that is that we actually encourage them. However, as Superintendent Wilcox was talking about, there are certain students that have exemptions from masks, and it wouldn't be recommended to them that a face shield is necessary.
Thank you for that. Trustee Burgess, do you still have the question of the mover?
I will, because I would support the motion knowing that face shields are already recommended and that there's a possibility that exemptions could happen and be accepted by our administration. So to the mover, is that acceptable? And the support and the person who supported, I think, Trustee Leclerc.
Trustee Team?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. When I made the motion, actually, I didn't, target it as the special need students. I fully, have sympathy with them, and I'm not going to, require them to wear face shield. But this motion is actually targeted to the, normal kids, and if they if they don't wear mask, they may have to wear the the face shield. So I wonder if we can make a change on this motion and accept accept the special needs students. Is that possible?
Is that the, Trustee Burgess, hold on. If you are putting an amendment on the floor, I need to know the wording of that amendment, and we would need to vote on that.
Madam Chair, for information, my question, that was not my intent to amend it. It's an understanding that I heard from administration, and I'm going to defer to their expertise and understand the individual needs of our students, all students, and it's not about only students who have identified special education needs. It's for all students. So I will support the motion if I think what I heard from the mover that there's a recognition that obviously there is an opportunity for exemptions. We're going to recommend as a board that face shields be used, but there could be exemptions. So thank you.
Do you have an amendment to put on the floor, Trustee Chin?
Yes, and the amendment is that the first part is the same. The students exempted from wearing a mask are required to wear a face shield unless it's exempted in order to protect other people.
So we are putting the amendment as moved. I will be looking for a seconder, but I want to make sure I get this right. To wear a face shield, so the beginning of the motion stands, a mask are required to wear a face shield, comma, unless exempted, comma, in order to protect other people. Is that right? Do I have a seconder for that amendment? Trustee Leclerc has seconded that. Any discussion on that amendment? Student Trustee McCowie.
Would students have to go back and get a second exemption from the face shields?
That is a good question. Who would like to answer that question? Superintendent Allender, go ahead.
Thank you for the question, through you, Madam Chair. Typically, when they do go to the doctor for the mask exemption, they also have something written about any kind of face covering. And then if that is there, and I will just say right now, I am a little confused at where we are, but with the exemption, yes, if a doctor says that it is not good for the child, then we do take that based on medical needs.
Thank you. Do you have a follow-up? Trustee Sipcart, before you get there, there's something that's bothering me a little bit that I need to. I want us to be very aware of the language that we're using here. All of our kids are normal kids. So all of our students are normal. I just wanted to be very clear about that. It's bothering me in the back of my mind. We need to be very careful about the language that we use in here. We have value in all of our students. Go ahead, Trustee Sipcart.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for that clarification as well. So if I'm understanding correctly, if a student, and this is to administration, if a student isn't wearing a mask in school, it's because they have an exemption, correct? And so if we're now saying that if they have an exemption, it would likely cover a face shield, therefore they would not need a face shield, or not need a face shield, correct? So who would this policy be covering if we add this amendment? Okay, I think on this basis alone, I won't be supporting the amendment, and I likely won't be supporting the main motion either.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions on the amendment that we have on the floor? Seeing and hearing none, I will call the question on the amendment. Does anyone need the amendment read before I call the question? You speak now. No, I'll call the question on the amendment. All in support of the amendment? Anyone in support? Trustee Chin and Trustee Leclerc. Anyone on the phone?
Support Burgess.
That's 3, and that fails. So we are back to the main motion. Any other questions of clarification very quickly on the main motion without the amendments? I will call the question on the motion. All in support of the motion. Trustee Cheen and Trustee Halberstadt.
Support Burgess.
That's 3. Anyone opposed? 3, 4, 5, 6. And that fails. Thank you, trustees. Moving forward to L4, school policy and regulation, schools anniversaries and reunions. That the board approve policy BA 23, school anniversaries and reunions as presented, and regulation BA 23, school anniversaries and reunions as presented. Do I have a mover? Trustee Cook, and a seconder by Trustee Sipkar. Any questions on this policy and regulation in front of us? Seeing and hearing none, I will call the question. Look at us go. All in support of this policy.
Support Burgess.
Thank you so much. Thank you, and that passes. Moving on to L5, policy and regulation, borrowing and investing of funds and other financial matters. Recommendation that the board approve the policy BA02 and the regulation RBA02, borrowing and investing funds and other financial matters as presented. A mover. Trustee Cook, seconded by Trustee Sipkar. Any questions on this policy and regulation? Seeing and hearing none, I will call the question. All in favor?
Support.
Thank you.
Support.
And that passes. We are on to, oh my, on the last page. Excited. Sorry. Policy and regulation at L6 for charitable donations. Policy BA03 on charitable donations, and the regulation RBA03 on charitable donations. Moved by Trustee Cook, seconded by Trustee Sipkar.
Burgess.
Thank you. Do you have a comment on this one, Trustee Burgess?
No, I was just hoping to do something.
Hoping to jump in there. Any questions or comments on this policy and regulation? Trustee Cheen.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. I do have questions. Okay. Oh, sorry. On page 27, and it is said that my question is that the last paragraph, the second last paragraph, in addition, the board, through the director and senior administration, shall have the right to refuse donations that do not meet the board's mission, vision, and strategic priorities. I see somewhere in the front that it deleted the sentence that do not meet the board's mission, vision, and strategic priorities. And I just want to make clear this part, because based on my previous experience, I think it's very difficult to donate to the school board because I got several donation requests from the communities, and they are all rejected, and some are not with any reason. So I have a feeling that we just don't accept donations. I know it's not correct, but I want to make clear how we process it.
So did you have a question for administration on that?
Yeah. Yeah, my question is that what kind of donations do we accept?
Through you, Madam Chair, maybe I can speak more to the couple of items that had come forward that we weren't able to accept. I know that there were requests to donate masks to the board. In that instance, the board had oodles of masks, and so we didn't accept that donation simply because we didn't require it, and we thought that there might be other organizations within Windsor-Essex County that could benefit from those masks. I believe there was also another request for donation of window air conditioning units. And we had Mr. Laframboise and Ms. Hinchliff here to explain that sometimes just putting a window air conditioning unit into a building has implications beyond just cooling the space because of the way the building has been designed. And so there were specific reasons in those instances why we were not able to accept it. But certainly, you know, we would be interested, the board is interested in anything that benefits our students, but it has to have a good rational sense that doesn't cost the board money, or it's inconsistent with building envelopes, or it's inconsistent with the board's values. So I mean, it's very specific to the item that's being donated, and we do appreciate those donations, but we do give it thoughtful consideration to see the full implications of those requests.
Trustee Jean?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the explanation. As for the face shield donations, I remember the scenarios, and it said that we can get the face shield from the provincial government and without paying for that. My question is that do we have to pay the share of the? Even if they give it to our board, do we need to pay finally the share of the cost? Another question is that I remember there is once that the policy suddenly, come from the health department unit that we need face shield. And I remember our board purchased, urgently thousands of face shield. And actually, at that time, the donation request is still in effect. So I don't quite understand your explanation that we don't need it and we don't pay for that, and you want other society to accept it. I mean, whatever products will benefit the society, but as a senior administration, we think we need to consider our board first. And it's not an excuse to leave it for other, society to have it. I'm not accusing that, but I do want to know how we process this. How it's easy to say no to any donations because we don't have to be, to check the product. We don't have to be, responsible for anything. But charitable donations is part of our job. I think we need to, fulfill our job, and other than just say no. You understand what I mean? Thank you.
Through you, Madam Chair, respectfully, Trustee Chin, at no time have I said that the board does not want to accept charitable donations. I want to be clear with respect to the personal protective equipment. We do procure those products from the Ministry of Government and Consumer Services. Those products are considered an in-kind contribution to the school board. We do not pay anything for those products, and we will not have to settle any money with the ministry for those products. We're very careful when it comes in particular to PPE to make sure that the products that are being worn by our staff are the appropriately rated products that are supported by Health Canada and meet the requirements of the Ministry of Health and Public Health Ontario. So we're very cautious, and when we procure through ministry sources, it does ensure that the products that we are using are appropriate. The reasons why we turned down the use of masks or face shields was simply because we already had sufficient PPE supplies available for our staff. And so it just didn't make sense to continue to accept a donation from another organization when we didn't need it. And it wasn't trying to be disrespectful to the groups that were offering it. We're very appreciative. And the same thing, we're very appreciative for you for advocating on behalf of the board. We just simply felt that if there was some other organization in the city or the county that could use it, it made sense to make it available to them because we already had sufficient stock on hand.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from trustees?
Burgess?
Go ahead, Trustee Burgess.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just want to say that in my time, I've certainly seen lots of wonderful charitable donations from individuals, organizations, philanthropists, all kinds of things. I'm reminded of the American Consulate, I think, bringing over a big supply of books for Begley Library, for example. But oftentimes when we have to deny something, it's the gift itself is wonderful, but the cost to sustain it, it might need care, it might need renewal, repair, something like that, prevents us from taking it because it's not good stewardship. The initial donation of a thing or whatever it is just requires a whole lot more. Again, to sustain it and have no risk or liability with it. So I support this policy. We talked about it at policy committee, and that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you for that. Any other final questions from trustees on this? Seeing and hearing none, I will call the question on L6, policy and regulation for charitable donations. All in favor?
Support, Burgess.
Thank you very much, and that passes. On to L7, policy student trustee, that the board approve policy student trustee as presented. Trustee Sipkar.
I'd like to motion to defer after hearing from my colleagues, because the regulation is not alongside it. It makes more sense to bring it back at such time when both the policy and reg are together.
Does anyone support the policy to defer? I'm hearing support.
Second.
Pardon me, Trustee Halberstadt?
Second, the deferral.
Thank you very much. You were quick on that one. So that's been moved and seconded to defer this policy to policy committee. Is that right? Yeah. All in support of the deferral?
Support.
Thank you on the phone, and that passes as a deferral to policy committee. I'm on to M1, report of the Director of Education, our operational plan of the board. Go ahead, Director Kelly.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, this is the first time I think I've presented this plan before 10 o'clock at night or whatever, so maybe we can have time for questions. I'm pleased to present our 2021-22 operational plan under the 3 new strategic directions in our newly revised strategic plan, devised and created under the leadership of our Board of Trustees. Our work over the next year, and I think years beyond, of course, will be, I believe, be grounded in diversity, equity, and inclusion. You will notice that we've attempted to align our plan, obviously, to those 3 tenets, and we've also attempted to make the plan a little bit clearer and it was getting a lot of words, and so I want to thank Ms. LeBoeuf for that, because she always helps us get clear on things. So I'm going to highlight a few things, and then I know that the members of the senior team would be happy to answer any questions. The first big idea that we've created, creating confident learners through personalized learning, supportive environments, and trusting relationships. There are many things in that section of the report, but I draw your attention to the focus on reading instruction, specifically the science of reading, and ensuring that we look at really targeting our students in that area and how we can best serve them, particularly in the areas of things like reading fluency. And I know that's a commitment that Superintendent Wilcox and Superintendent Howard have. In the area of mental health, of course, we began the year, and I think you'll see much in the report also about how we can focus forward in supporting our students in the area of mental health. Of course, this year brings the de-streaming of grade 9 mathematics, so that remains a top priority, as we will see probably more of that kind of work in de-streaming come forward the following year. In the area of equity, I think there's lots within this creating confident learners piece. For example, in the high skills major area, you'll see some training around anti-oppression and allyship training. You'll see lots in there on Indigenous education, goals in the area of anti-Black racism. We will be conducting a staff and student census this year that we believe will assist our decision making. We are looking to our audit, and we are also doing a lot of professional development around this topic of equity, diversity, and inclusion. Another point I want to make is that our ELL learners, I believe, are highlighted in this plan as we move to ensure that they reach levels of language wherein they can participate in classrooms. And I know there's be a model change, or that's a gradual model change over the last number of years, but we believe we're best supporting those students. Our second pillar really is engaging communities through equitable and reflective practices that respect and honor our diversity. I think the plan notes a very enhancement in the area of communication, which I believe some which we have done, but this is our work forward that we really need to embrace. You'll see attention to an enhanced budget process. You'll see also work in the area of professional development in all kinds of areas of diversity, equity, inclusion, which is about honoring and respecting the diversity. You'll see work where we've added a number of new staff to support our Indigenous and our Black communities, and in the area of tutors and grad coaches and CYF support staff. And in the area of demonstrating ethical stewardship through thoughtful and intentional use of financial and human environmental resources, you will see that one of the goals is environmental stewardship leader in our community. And that is reflected in the single-use plastics, for example. There's many other initiatives that are noted there. Budget allocation formula changes so that we're more equitable in that work. A staff wellness strategy is outlined within the report as well. And noted also is the employee systems review respecting the diverse workforce, human rights, and employment equity hiring practices. And those are just some of the highlights of the overall plan. And there's extensive work below this work. Of course, there are many plans that exist below the plans, but the senior staff and I would be happy to answer any questions with respect to the 2021-22 operational plan. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Kelly. It is very exciting indeed to see the work of these new strategic priorities reflected in this plan and the way that we're communicating them out. I'm quite proud of what we came up with as a board altogether, and I'm quite proud to see this come out in this report. So thank you very much for that. Do I have any questions from trustees? The operational plan. Trustee Sipcar.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. I kind of have a more high-level question. It seems like a lot of these are really new, or not really new, but at least the way that we're approaching it is different. How much of the operational plan would you say has changed from last year? Just like an estimate.
I think sometimes we were including things that maybe didn't need to be included. There were too, not lower level, but that maybe were too detailed. So I think we've done a better job of grouping and streamlining things. I think there are a number of new initiatives here, though. I really do. I think the equity lens is much greater in the mental health stands out a bit more. So sometimes it's the way it's expressed, but I do see a lot of, a lot of changes, a lot of direction. D-stream math, we didn't have our focus on reading instruction. Those are somewhat different than they were in the past. But again, part of that's the way it's expressed. But fair comment. It is a lot of it is new.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out the active transportation one. I think that is new. Like there's a few that jumped out at me, so I think it's exciting that we're moving in this direction on some key initiatives. So that was what stuck out to me.
Yeah, thank you for that comment. I forgot to mention active transportation, but again, I think it's being able to bring those ideas together, and I think our strategic plan help us do that. So thank you for that.
I will echo that it's nice. I mean, we've had two operational plans come through COVID where we've had to report on kind of unmet goals, and it's very it's nice to be aspirational and inspirational in this sort of thing, and to see how what we've done in the last year and a half has really informed how we move forward and maybe change some of that. I'm very encouraged by that. Any other questions from trustees? I do have one from Trustee Olmsted.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. My question is about the anti-oppression and allyship training on page 27 for the 75% of the specialist high skills major students. I just had some questions about it. Could you expand about that? Like, how will it be taught? Will it be taught throughout their time in high school? Will it be in their final year? Will it be a one-time, like, a workshop, or is this something that will be like a continual kind of training throughout their graduating year? And I noticed it's 75%. Is the aim 100%, or is there just certain parts of the specialist high skills major program that this doesn't fit into? I just think it's a really valuable training moving forward. I would like to see all of our students get this kind of training, but I'm really interested in finding out how this is going to be played out to these students.
Thank you for the question, and through you, Madam Chair. So we are currently developing those modules in Brightspace. It's with our SHISM lead, Justin St. Pierre, and BASIA, our Black Staff Equity Alliance, are developing that now. We're concerned about the grade 12 students that may not have an opportunity to do it before the end of the year. However, we're hoping to increase that 75% next year.
Do you have a follow-up, Trustee Olmsted?
I do. I just wanted to make sure, would this be available to both our in-person and brick and mortar and virtual students as well?
Yes, it will be available on modules on Brightspace. It'll be available both virtual and in person.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. Any other questions from trustees?
I have a question, Madam Chair. On 36, talks about bullying and a handbook about how students report bullying. And the type here says that it's already in circulation in September of 2021. I wonder if I could get a handbook, or they would be handed out to trustees.
Superintendent Corbach.
Thank you for the question, and through you, Madam Chair. Yeah, we can provide that. The reason it says it's in draft form is there are some formatting elements of it that we wanted to look at, maybe find ways to reduce it in length so that it was more suitable to go into a school handbook. But we thought it was important to get it out this year. So certainly I can provide you with the draft that's currently in circulation, as well as the updated draft for next school year.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Burgess, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's already been asked, but I'm going to put a finer point on it, if I could, through you, Madam Chair. Page 52, it's under engaging communities through equitable and reflective practices that respect and honor our diversity, but I think it could just as easily be checked off under ethical stewardship, and that's about the active transportation goals, action steps, and expected measurable outcomes. I'm wondering, in the logistics of it, because we haven't had a real, report from the active transportation committee, on the progress that we've made, et cetera. I'm wondering, how closely do we work with our municipalities on planning infrastructure, traffic, encouraging things? In the county, of course, there was the countywide active transportation study, CWATS, and there was in that report, in the summary, of a hope that there would be a commitment with school boards to discuss and co-plan active transportation routes, and we've done that. But could you let me know if the active transportation committee has engaged with municipalities or with those counterparts that have really a lot more to do with the infrastructure that support our kids getting to school without a car?
Superintendent, I wonder.
Thank you for the question, through you, Madam Chair. Yes, we do interact with the municipalities. I can give you an example. Superintendent Armstrong was just talking about it today. MD Benny is one of our pilot schools for the Active Transportation Committee. They're also one of the pilot schools for the grant Active Transportation Committee that we have with our coterminous boards, as well as some of the municipalities and the City of Windsor and the police, etc. At the moment, we're in discussions with them to put a stoplight in at the MD Benny corner because some of what the survey was that they did said that the parents were a little bit hesitant to have their children walk the bike lane, walking lane, but then have to cross a busy street where there's a fair amount of traffic and the speed is a little bit maybe faster than they would want. So that's a perfect example of a partnership. And they reached out to me about that, and we had conversations. And then from there, I know they went to council, and then Superintendent Armstrong took over and is now looking at some of the easement and how all the business part of it works. On our committee, we have the City of Windsor. We have individuals from the county. We're always looking at the infrastructure. It's limited to what we can do with that, but it is certainly a part of our conversations all the time. With the grant committee, it's also part of the conversations. And I will say with our transportation committee, tomorrow we have our walkability, I believe it is, over at King Edward, and we have our bikeability the following day. And those are checks, and they're pointing out routes that the children can walk to school or bike to school that will be safe, efficient, and get there in the manner that we want. The other two schools are Talbot Trail and MD Benny. Those are going to happen the following 2 weeks. And this is in coordination with the police. They head it up, and then a number of people from the committee are also going to be there. So I hope that helps. And then Superintendent Armstrong.
I just wanted to add that Superintendent Allender and myself also sit on the City School Board Liaison Ad Hoc Committee with the City of Windsor. It includes representatives as well with Transit Windsor. All the coterminous boards participate in this: student transportation, the fire department, the police department, city engineering, roads, all of the departments. So we do have discussions on issues related to active transportation, traffic issues, infrastructure, all those sorts of things. So we do collaborate very closely with them.
And Trustee Burgess, I would like to add as well that with our grant committee, we are reaching out to each municipality to set up hopefully a charter that we have currently created with the grant committee already. And that charter is with all of the municipalities being on board and looking into the future and setting a direction on how we can make it better.
If I could, Madam Chair?
Indeed.
Thank you so much for that response. That's really exactly what I was looking for. And I have my note down here, and the next supplemental was, do you liaise with the city and boards liaison committee and or the Phantom County and School Boards liaison committee, which doesn't ever meet. But I will tell you that, at county council, all the municipalities in Essex County, ascribe to the CWATS, to the Countywide Active Transportation Study and its findings and its recommendations. So it would be great if there was ever a presentation made to county council level, for example, to make that overture so that we didn't have to go through every single municipality. We could collectively say that, we really value this, and while they're going over all their budgets and plans, et cetera, that, you keep us in mind. But that's a great response. Thank you. I did catch 3 of the schools: King Edward, Talbot Trail, MD Benny. What were the other 2 in the project? In the pilot project?
The other 2 are Northwood and Suzuki. However, they aren't part of the actual grant project. They were just part of our initial pilot schools that we were doing with the school board. So we just wanted to continue on with those 2 schools as well, because we can piggyback on what we do with the grant committee and pull it to that committee with those 2 schools.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do any other trustees have questions? Student Trustee McCowie.
On page 51, a goal is outlined: conduct a student census. I was just wondering when the census would be going out and to get some clarification on what the actual goals of the census are.
Through you, Madam Chair. We are working on the questions for that. It'll be an extensive census. I imagine it'll be in the spring. And the questions are being devised. It's really important what questions are asked. Some of those will be demographic questions, about people, but some of other questions, I know Superintendent Houston probably knows more about the questions. I know they're big revision, but they're really about understanding our community.
Thank you. So yes, quite a bit of demographic, and a plan would be that we would bring the questions, the draft questions, to Student Senate first for student input. But we are working with a consultant, and they will be very similar to the staff one. Questions around gender identity, questions around, male, female as well, demographic, race, religion, multitude of questions.
Do you have a supplemental?
It is a huge task. I'm just going to ask, it is a big task, and boards all over Ontario are doing it, but it is really quite a mammoth piece. I'm learning that we have to get this right. So.
It's a very important piece of our equity work, indeed. Any other questions from trustees? I have two. So I am going to start with, I've heard about the science of reading. I've heard it so many times, and I've heard it from our union partners at the meeting that we had, and they're actually very excited about it. And then I hear it here, and so I'm wondering if Superintendent Howitt can tell us what is the science of reading? What is the kind of the new piece that we're adding into our curriculum there, or if it's new at all? If you can give us a kind of overview of the science of reading.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The science of reading is a compilation of about 30 years of science research. We've come to understand a better and deeper understanding of how to teach students how to read. Myself and my colleague, Superintendent Wilcox, have organized a systemic committee working with key members of the special education team and program team, as well as representatives of administrators from our schools. We began planning in the winter. And we really feel confident with the plan that has been put together. And the PD has launched. It is launched in October and is intended to go over until January, actually into the new year for a different group, for our kindergarten teachers and support staff. But we're really excited about it because it's a really definitive, more structured approach to teaching students to read, which we feel falls really well into our overall equity plan, in that every student deserves the right to read.
Thank you very much for that. And so the joint work between your two portfolios is that it would extend to kind of across the board to all students at their particular grade level, and their to all teachers.
The partnership is based on the knowledge and expertise of people in both departments. And in fact, I really need to acknowledge the tremendous expertise of individuals within the special education department, working collaboratively with program to really heighten our total level of understanding as a collective in the district, to really bring this forward. Dr. Mark Crundwell has been an integral key member of that team. I refer to you, Mike, if you'd like to add anything to that.
Yeah, just we also have had a lot of support from our speech and language pathologists. They've been amazing in supporting the science of reading, as well as some of our special education consultants, especially those who have Orton Gillingham training. And just know that the science of reading is also very much aligned to Lexia and to Empower as well, around the building, or the, around phonics, phonemic awareness, and vocabulary. So, yeah.
We do have a presentation planned for the November education meeting to give an overview to our Board of Trustees.
I did not mean to preempt that. However, as a nice maybe like a lead into that, whenever we are hearing about things that are that we're doing so well, especially in the area of special education, I'm always reminded how underfunded we are with that. And I'm so grateful that we do as much as we do for special education on several purse strings from around this table here that are pulled together. Every time we have a budget come out, we send that letter that says we're underfunded in these, and we do great work with the funding that we have, and I'm deeply appreciative of that, and wish to push again that special education needs to be funded better, more deliberately, for sure. I have a second question for Superintendent Mills. I noticed that we're providing a device to virtual students, so all students will have a device for their personal use. Do we have a 1-to-1 ratio in the virtual school for personal use devices?
Yes, thank you for the question. Yes, right now we supply devices to any student that needs it at the virtual school. We still have a BYOD policy at the schools, which means bring your own device to school. So some students provide their own device, but those that are in need, we do provide for them.
And thank you for that. And how close are we? What is our kind of roundabout ratio for our in-school students as far as devices, maybe outside of the BYOD policy, but any that we have on the carts or things that are shared, and how possible is it to even share in the time of COVID?
Right now, the devices are limited within the schools, so we are encouraging the BYOD. We did provide numerous devices to students. Last year, you remember, we handed out 19,000 devices between staff and students. So we're encouraging those students to bring those devices back and to school and back to home at night to do their homework. We also, last year when we did some questioning, we found out that about 60% of our students had devices already, so we're in a good spot. We are looking at getting more devices back into the school. We're targeting about mid-November. As with everything, there's a shortage of parts, so things like carts are hard to come by. Parts for our laptops are hard to come by, so once we start seeing more inventory coming in, we're going to get those out to our schools as soon as possible.
Thank you for that, and I imagine that the upkeep on that many devices that we just input into our system in a very short period of time is quite a bit of work for your team. So thanks very much for that and keeping our students supported as we go forward. Any other questions from trustees?
I have one, Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Trustee Halberstadt.
Yeah, page 57, 25, we're talking about the last bracket there, talking about develop diversity policies and hiring practices. And then I think Superintendent Huston is going to conduct an employment system review. And I'm just wondering if that could be explained. And also, is this hiring practices, is there anything like affirmative action as was in the past, or maybe still is? Is there anything like that in our policies and our direction?
So thank you for the question, through you, Madam Chair. Interesting that you use affirmative action. Sometimes we do exactly the same thing and just to change the names of stuff. So there is a component of what we would refer to previously as affirmative action. There are other boards that have gone through an employment systems review as well. You'll recall last year that the trustees approved a policy around hiring practices for our teachers as Reg 274 was revoked. This is expanding it further for all employees of the board, and our hiring practices and any policies that relate to hiring, our succession planning, our promotion process, really looking at everything we do from the point of recruitment all the way up to exit interviews of when employees are leaving the board through either resignation or retirement. A complete review of every single thing we do in terms of hiring from an HR perspective.
Okay, so there is an affirmative action still in place at our board, or?
I wouldn't say it's affirmative action. That's a little bit more of an American term, but it's about equitable hiring practices.
In place.
Thank you very much. Anything further from trustees? We appreciate the questions and the report. Thank you, Director Kelly and Senior Administration, for that. Report of the OPSPA Director Delegate. Trustee Burgess, do you have anything?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I have distributed a copy, and it could be attached as minutes if we wanted to. Just if I could briefly go through some of the things. We have met as the Education Program Work Team. I'm on that work team, provincial team. Attended a couple of meetings, a joint meeting with the Education Program Work Team, and I think I saw you there, Trustee Higginson. We did have agenda items that included, prior to the election, the federal election issues. We have discussed the Immunization of Schools Pupils Act and our advocacy in that role. And also PPM 166, Keeping Students Safe, and that has to do with anti-sex trafficking protocols, which is a concern across the province for children. we talked about our local preparations rather for local government week as well, which is this week. We met to review the association's draft response to the Ministry of Education's Code of Conduct consultations. I know that we as a board will also be going over that policy and regulation. But that online public survey from the province looking at Code of Conduct and who has an opportunity to have input is online now, and the deadline is November 1st. There's a regulatory posting as well. As I mentioned, this is Local Government Week, and OPSPA has produced an ongoing education piece via YouTube and most social media platforms. Every day, one of our regional chairs are sharing OPSPA's perspective on the top 5 priorities of the organization, and I encourage everyone to share the YouTube videos that will continue to be rolled out daily this week. So I'd also like to thank our GECDSB communications team for reinforcing the awareness of how important it is to have local representation for school board governance. You know, the nuances between school districts really vary despite our many commonalities. And so it's important to have local representation. I've included in my report some video links to those YouTube presentations. There'll be a new one tomorrow. Keep checking. We did have a Board of Directors meeting on September 25th, and we had a very full agenda. And I have provided a link to that agenda. The GECDSB has also submitted a notice of motion for the November OPSPA Board of Directors meeting to revise the oath or affirmation of allegiance found in the Education Act to more closely align with the newly revised oath of Canadian citizenship, noting that we are all treaty people. OPSPA Western Regional Meeting is being held virtually on November 3rd. All trustees are welcome to attend. I really encourage you to do so. It's half a day, it's in the evening this time. It's at 6 o'clock, an evening meeting. And there will be a full agenda following by email to trustees closer to the date. But we will be looking at OPSPA's Project Compass, which is a systemic review, and we'll be working on that. The provincial government has allocated 1,200 menstrual pad dispensers to school boards based on the number of secondary schools. And this is certainly good news. However, OPSPA has noted that this is an issue that must be addressed in middle schools and elementary schools as well. And school boards will look to distribute products in school spaces that are easily accessible to students. And I'd like to congratulate student trustees who in years past, at least 3 years of advocacy through OSTA and ACO, for getting this on the provincial radar and actually getting some action from the province. It's a really tremendous leap forward for making inroads on period poverty. I've given some other updates, and they are the news release about attracting French language teachers, expanding prospective nursing students, that's still in our bailiwick, to prepare them, connecting newcomers with opportunities in the skilled trades, and again, we have a role to play, supporting French language education in the skilled trades, and on the Council of Ministers of Education releasing their latest results on the performance of grade 8 students in math, reading, and science. So if you have any questions, please, contact me, and I'll be able to update you on anything you need. And I hope you do attend the regional meeting coming up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Trustee Burgess, for that comprehensive report. I appreciate it, and looking forward to reading the report that went along with it in our inboxes. Any questions for Trustee Burgess? Seeing and hearing none, thank you very much. I do not have a chair's report tonight. We are on to trustee question period. Any questions from trustees?
I have a question, Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Trustee Halberstadt.
Yeah, it's to, I guess, to Superintendent Allender. I know you guys had a meeting today with regard to athletics, and guess what a lot of people are wondering is, when do the games begin?
Thank you for the question. Through you, Madam Chair. Trustee Halberstadt, I would have never guessed you would have asked this question. We did have our meeting today. As you saw, the letter went out to all of the schools, sent home to the families, just that we're getting started. There still are some logistical things that we have to do. We do have our ready to play document done, and that is completed, and now it's just in draft. Well, it is in draft, but it was sent to the health unit. I sent it tonight. Also sent it to our health and safety officer, just to vet it through them. The other boards are having a look at it as well, and we're hoping to have it back in a couple days. And so that's our first step. We then have that as our official document. It's almost like a safety plan back to extracurricular. And that we give that to the principals. They can have a look at it, but that's sort of the document that they will go by. The coaches as well will have to go by that too. We did set up tentative groups today as far as what sports are going to take place before Christmas, how we can get them in, how we need to modify them, but also making sure that it's equitable for the other teams that are going to be after Christmas, so they would have the same amount of games in both seasons. We did also look at some of the sports that we can't get in right now and move those sports to the spring, and how we might be able to do that. As far as the certification, when I mentioned football helmets are all set. Also, the coaches were given 2 opportunities to get their safe tackle certification, and so we did end up with a few that did that. I think at this point in our discussions, the football was one that we weren't quite sure about. The other 2 boards are still not doing it. We had a motion a few meetings ago where I think it was to make sure that the helmets were ready, and you correct me if I'm wrong, please, as well as get the training. I think it was around that. So I guess that's where we are. I'm going to say, and this is, I don't want to be quoted on this, but we're hoping in a couple weeks we can get things rolling. Now we also have to, I'll mention too, WEXA still has to have some meetings. They have 2 more meetings this week to finalize some things, and then we have to make sure the coaches and conveners are in place to get that going too.
Okay. So where does football fit in? Could it be moved to spring?
So that was talked about. Yeah.
Decide.
So that was talked about. There was not a definite as far as the other 2 boards go. They looked at, is it possible? And again, there's the logistics of all the other sports that are taking place, the fields, etc. And that's based on the what I would call, somewhat experts that have been around the sports and have convened them and been part of WEXA and the executive for a number of years. So it might be looked at, but there's definitely not a for certain that it would take place in the spring.
So what about taking place at all?
Well, I'll say that I guess there could be a shortened season that took place before the Christmas break. However, that would just be our school board and the teams that are willing to participate.
Thank you.
When will this be
Trustee
decided?
Halberstadt, we have a limit here to questions that we can ask. If you have any further questions from that, please send them to Superintendent Allender, and we can get those communicated out. Trustee Sipcar, go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. This is to administration. I made note at our last meeting when Ms. Dupuy was on the phone, and she made a comment that the number of school, I think she said, cases or outbreaks, or I don't know the exact language, was currently higher at that time, a few weeks ago, than at the second wave of of 2020. I can't remember the exact language or quote that she said, but my question was related to that. In that, are we at all concerned or preparing for any sort of pending shutdown? Is there any sort of information from our partners at the health unit that would indicate that we should be preparing in this direction in any way? Not to jinx it, I'm just genuinely asking.
Please don't, Trustee Sipcar, but through you, Madam Chair. I'm not aware, and Superintendent Allwender is in more discussion with the health unit and of any fear that will be happening, although that could always be. I think the ministry's position and the health units is keep schools open, keep kids in school as best we can. And if you want to add to that, Superintendent Allwender, but I think that's the position as we are now. It is obviously she noted the cases here. Yeah, they are high, but I think the attempt will be to keep schools open.
Yeah, yes, they're very intent to keep the schools open. They're being very careful, and as you know, I believe the number is that we're over quadruple what we were the entire year last year. So it is a lot.
So, and I remember last year we were a special case in that they ordered a Section 22, I believe, and they haven't indicated anything like that in light of our numbers being so high.
No, and I think it's an interesting dynamic because I think last year, without the vaccinations, there were a lot more adults that were positive. I'm gonna say, and I don't know for sure the stats here, but I'm gonna say that we have a lot more students this year than we did last year.
And I guess just as a follow-up to that, I was going to ask what's different, but I guess, is there anything that we should be concerned about as a board? Maybe this is a bit directed at Superintendent Armstrong in terms of our preparation, because last year we had a big buffer in terms of savings for schools being closed, but it doesn't sound like there's going to be any significant closures. I guess, do we have a plan, or are we just kind of going week by week, day by day, in terms of the budgetary impacts of keeping the schools open?
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. At the Ops and Finance meeting 2 weeks ago, we did provide a revised projected cost. At this point, there isn't anything that would suggest that estimate's going to change. Costs associated with absenteeism, for example, those are difficult for us to always project, so that's always a risk, and that's a TBD. We are in the process, we have to submit revised estimates to the ministry by December 15th, so we will be re-looking at those projections again. Again, we're going to have to make assumptions like we have all along the budget process. We're going to assume schools are going to remain open. And of course, we still don't know whether we're going to get that second half of the COVID funding released. At this time, we are going to be relying on the first 1% that was approved by the board in order to address any costs related to this.
Thank you for that. Perpetually infuriating. But thank you for that, Trustee Cook.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I've received quite a few calls from staff and from some parents concerned because of shortage of staff, especially in with kids with special needs. What they're saying is that staff that are reporting are overwhelmed and are not able to handle the needs of some of the students. And the last call I got was today, just late afternoon, stating that there was short staff, support staff in the West End, Riverside, and the county. Also at one school, recess was canceled because there wasn't enough staff to be out there with the kids. So I'm just wondering, what are we gonna do? And I'm sure, everyone's concerned about this, but I'm just wondering what we're gonna do. Parents some of the parents are nervous about sending their kids because they feel that because of the staff shortage that the students' needs, their child's needs are not being met. So I was just wondering if anyone has heard from any principals about struggles with staff, and what is the plan moving forward? Thank you.
I can start, through Madam Chair. I know my colleagues can add to this, that the staff shortage is certainly a reality. I look at the work that our HR staff do every day and our principals to ensure that we have people there. We continue to hire. We continue to try to find staff, but you are right. There are days that it is very challenging, and there's lots of attempts to move people around so that we can get staff. I look to maybe Superintendent House and Superintendent Wilcox if you want to add any comments on that, but it is a real challenge. People are doing their very best to accommodate, and but and if things get worse, it would be a huge challenge.
Yeah, I can just add, and thank you for the question, Trustee Cook. The special education department, first of all, I think it's really important to note this. This isn't something that is isolated with the Greater Essex County District School Board. This is something we're seeing across the province. I'm in touch with my superintendents of special education and a number of boards, and the vast majority of boards are experiencing this as well. The Spec Ed department has been working closely with human resources to recruit and hire educational support staff, and we're going to continue to do so to try to fill those positions. We've been holding interviews. The HR department has been holding interviews with applicants every 2 weeks in an attempt to replenish our day-to-day call-out of staff. We've shared the support staff postings on our social media platforms over the past few weeks. They were shared over 700 times and reached over 49,000 people on Facebook. This continues to be reposted on Twitter and Facebook up to and including today. There is some good news. We did have some new temporary support staff who participated today in orientation, and more participating in orientation next week that we've hired to be on the temporary support list. And we're hoping this will help with shortages. And I just want to remind people too, from the special education department, we do have our tier 3 teams and our board certified behavior analysts out there. And if there are issues that are brought to our attention around safety, we respond by sending those people out to support in the schools as well. And we're going to continue to try to replenish our list.
Thank you very much. I know when we have chair's phone calls with the minister, that is a thing that comes up on our member boards as well, and it is a major concern. So thank you very much for bringing it up, not only for families but for staff as well, as they are overwhelmed and are being asked to put more on their plates in service of kids, which we all are here for. But it is a lot. It is a lot. So thank you. And yes, please continue to share those posts about hiring, because we would love to have you as part of our team here. Any other questions from trustees? Trustee Chin.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. I just have a simple question regarding our meeting today and the motion L3, and we have 4 people supported, 4 people, not supported, and we have Trustee Olmsted didn't respond by phone. So I wonder if we follow if it's okay. Do we follow the rules to?
Yep, we did. Yes, we did. Yep, we're short a trustee tonight. Trustee Hatfield is not in attendance tonight.
Yeah, 4 refused and 4 supported, and there is one Olmsted you didn't even ask.
So a tie.
Sure.
Oh, but it's on the phone. I wonder if we should make it clearer what's her position.
She can. Would you like her to make that clear?
Yeah. Is it?
Trustee Olmsted.
Trustee Chin, sorry, Trustee Chin, I oppose. I don't know if you could hear me. There was a lot of commotion when I was off of mute at that time, and I'm a little bit delayed, so I did oppose that.
Does that clear that for you?
Yeah. Thank you.
I do appreciate you bringing that up, actually, because there are so many on the phone tonight that they do go over each other, and we do want to have clear records of what we do, and here we are working for the public. So I appreciate you bringing that up. Thank you very much. Anyone else have any questions this evening for administration? Any notices of motion? Trustee Leclerc.
I've already provided a copy to Madame Leboeuf. I have 2. The first one is education staff be permitted to obtain their own Health Canada approved respirators, be permitted to wear those in the workplace. provided staff follow the application and removal guidelines stipulated by the Canadian Centre of Occupational Health and Safety, staff will continue to be supplied with ministry-approved PPE. That's motion one. The second one is that the Greater Essex County District School Board write a letter to the Ministry of Education requesting approval of masking better than level 2, and the ministry fund this enhanced PPE for all staff and students.
Thank you very much, Trustee Leclerc. Can you hit your mic there for me? Thank you. Any other notices of motion tonight from trustees? Seeing and hearing none. Any announcements tonight? I have one. Oh, Trustee Burgess. Trustee Burgess, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I didn't interrupt somebody, did I?
I told you to go, so I guess that's you.
Okay. So, thank you, Madam Chair. This Thursday, October 21st, is Great Big Crunch Day. And I'm going to ask everybody to bring an apple to work or school this Thursday to celebrate that day, the Great Big Crunch. Show your support to showcase the importance of student nutrition programs, healthy eating, and local growers. This year's crop of Ontario apples is outstanding, so make sure you take a big crunch of your favorite variety on Thursday and share it on social media. One way you can share it on social media is through Twitter with the Ontario Student Nutrition Program, Windsor Essex, and their handle is at ONSP, lowercase, and then capital W, capital E. So lowercase ONSP, capital W, capital E on Twitter, and I hope we're all put an apple in our lunches. Thanks.
Thank you very much for that, Trustee Burgess. And in an area like ours, where we have many local growers to choose from, what a delicious thing to be able to support. I do have an announcement. Trustee Burgess referred to it earlier, but it is Local Government Week. And trustees are the oldest form of elected office in the province of Ontario since 1807. We are always looking for ways to improve that long-standing condition or tradition. So the Ministry of Education is conducting a consultation for feedback on trustee codes of conduct, as Trustee Burgess noted in her OPSPA report. And the public, not just us, but we are all encouraged here in this room, and the public is encouraged to complete the online survey. And I would personally like to encourage you to do so. The roles and responsibilities of trustees have changed significantly from our inception in 1807. I would hope so. And when we change, we need to do so with diverse voice, perspectives, and feedback from all of our stakeholders. So we need this to improve the roles that we do on your behalf. So please do respond to that survey. And links to that survey can be found on the Ministry of Education's website as well as through OPSPA's website. We're adjourned. Thanks all.
Madam Chair. Julia Burgess
is now exiting.